just stories in the dark. Static crackles, a voice leaves a mark. Step closer, the truth's not far. Monsters awaken where nightmares are. Late night tuning in again. A voice calls out from deep within. Every tale crawls beneath my skin. The hunt begins, let the screams begin. Monsters unleash, no turning back. They walk in echoes, they paint the black. From shadowed woods to basement doors, they live in tales and something more. Clicking claws in the hallway crawl. Footsteps where there should be none at all. Breath on glass, but you're alone. Or are you just a voice through the phone? Whispers say it's just pretend, but stories never really end. When silence breaks, the fear ascends. They're not inside, they're in your head. Monsters unleash, no turning back. They speak in tongues, they leave no track. Through coke tapes and haunted streams, they feed on fear, they live and scream. They live and scream. The creak, the sigh, the static bite. Each episode, another bite of something wrong, just out of sight. Listener discretion is advised. Monsters unleashed, you call their name. You played the tape, you're part of the game. From every tale, the darkness grows. You thought you knew, but now it knows. Monsters unleashed, and you press play. Now they know you. They're on their way.
Hey, everybody, how's it going? Hey, Trisha, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good. Excited to be here.
Hey.
Excited for tonight.
That Bigfoot sticking its tongue out in that video, that never gets old. It really doesn't.
Just told Doug the same thing.
Yeah.
Me up every time.
Well, we got a good show for everybody tonight. I guess we'll go ahead and bring out the rest of our team here. And let's see here. We'll bring out James. Hey there, James. How are you, buddy?
Good. How y'all doing?
Oh, man, we're hitting a lick at it. You know what I mean? Let's bring out Andy also.
What's up,
guys? How's everybody?
Oh, man, busy. Been
Doing
excited
good.
for
Tennessee.
all week.
Yeah. Do we have to talk about that?
Let's bring out Donna here also. Hello, Miss Donna. She must not be able to hear us. And we've got Rockin' Randy. Hello there.
Hey,
Mr.
guys. What's going on?
We've got a humdinger for everybody tonight. You know it? We've got a pretty good, an exciting guest. I've been waiting all week. I'm telling you, if I could have got him on Monday, I would have done it Monday. I got tired of waiting. But I don't know who that is. Was that James? Did you saying something, James? But anyways, I guess we'll go ahead and bring him out. He's got a lot to say, and everybody, Mr. Darrell Denton.
Hello.
Hey,
Appreciate you having me.
We appreciate you being here.
Sure honored to be here. It's always an honor for someone to ask me to be a guest on their show.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, the honor's all ours.
Well, mutual here. Mutual feelings there. So we're all good there for sure. But everybody doing good this evening?
Oh boy, I tell you, I have been chomping at the bit all day long. Like it's like today's been the longest day of the year for me. Is it 9 o'clock yet? Is it 9 o'clock yet?
I feel that. I was at JC's wrestling, my daughter's wrestling meet, and I was like, is this thing going to end? And I'm sitting at the wrestling meet reading Martin Grove's book as she's wrestling. So I was excited to get back
Well,
home.
I tell you what, he's got 3 good books, and I've got all 3 of them right behind me here. All of them editors' copies and signed. So he's probably the most realistic person that I've ever known, next to my granddad who's gone now. But if Martin tells you something, you write it down. He's straightforward. Him and my other best friend, Ron Moorhead's the same way. If they tell you something, you don't have to even think twice. It's real.
Yeah, everybody has said that about Martin. They said if you meet the man, you'll know that he's not the type of person that would lie to you about something.
No, he's got a heart of gold, and he really just tells things the way it is. It may not be exactly like you want to hear it, but he's going to tell it that way.
And also, I'm sorry here, we had Mr. Mark Roberts here. Mr. Mark Night Vision Paranormal saying hello.
Hello, Mark.
Yeah,
Well,
I forgot.
That song on your introduction was good too, and I tell you what, you got one good songwriter there with Martin's new song. I really like that. It was good.
Thank you very much. Yeah, everybody loves it, and our Monsters Unleash tune there and stuff, man. That's pretty good little tune. We've got actually probably 20 songs or so that we put it up available on our Patreon. For people to join our Patreon.
I'm definitely going to talk to you about maybe doing one, see what you got for Ron and I, because we just started our podcast 2 weeks ago. It's called Two Real Cryptid Legends, and that was Ron's work, what he wanted to call it, so that's what I went with. But we've been searching for something to put on our format, so I'm going to get with you with that if you got time to fool with it.
Absolutely. It'd be my honor to do it for you.
Be honored to have you do it. Thank you.
matter of fact, Michael's got a couple songs on Channel 12, but he's also got songs up on WRA Radio, playing stream on FM out of Las Vegas and playing all over the world. So Michael's got a lot of music floating around.
Sounds like he's a pretty talented guy. I tell you, he really is a pretty talented guy. Couldn't think of a song he could have wrote any better than what he wrote for Martin. That was a fantastic job.
Well,
awesome.
Well, it's like I told Donna there when I did Donna's song. It is when you're basically your life story is online for people to find. It's not hard to look up a person and put words together from what they've experienced, and like Martin's was really easy. I mean, Martin's got stuff all over the internet, and Donna's was the same, and I'm sure I'll find the same when I find you too. So, I'll get you something.
Well, I hear nothing but good things about Donna, so maybe I'll meet you one day, Donna.
I hope so. I hope to meet everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we can't. We was going to go down to that Red River Sasquatch Festival they're having down there, but trying to get a vendor application in there to get a booth and stuff, like it's like pulling teeth.
Oh my God, they had so many.
Is that Oklahoma?
No, down in Kentucky.
Oh, Red River. Okay.
Yeah, Red River.
There's 2 Red Rivers. The one in Kentucky runs through Tennessee, so I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, I tried too. I didn't get one either.
I'm not familiar with that particular one, but I wish I'd have known about it earlier. I might have been able to get something.
Heard back from them yet? No.
Yeah, we haven't heard anything. They said that, they posted a list of that the emails had already been sent out to people, and if you hadn't got one, you may get one within the next month. But if anybody watching has any pull there, tell them Monsters Unleashed is ready to come.
I
I'll
talked
spin them.
to, I sent Angie and Kurt both that there is so many people that, they said it was just like, this year was just overwhelming the amount of people. And because of the
Yeah.
Bigfoot stuff that was going on, I guess it has just went crazy.
Well,
When I was
you,
there,
you know why? You know why, Donna, is because there's been more sightings.
yeah,
There's been more sightings this year than there has been in the past decade.
yeah.
So,
Over the last 2 years, it's went from just here. Um, you're seeing more and more people seeing, and it's just.
Well, I truly believe since I started this journey, there's a lot more creatures anyway in the woods. And plus, on top of the fact, you got a whole lot more people out there in the woods looking for them. So it makes a difference. And with the encroachment of, businesses and buildings and subdivisions, that makes a difference too. So
Absolutely. Our woods here, like I said, we got a 400-acre woods. Hasn't been touched in over 200 years. And it's been, they're logged out. So everything that's in there, I've got bobcats, bear, everything is coming to my back door.
wow.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's just.
Where are you located at?
I'm in Ohio, southeastern.
Okay. Yeah, you start messing with their territory, you'll definitely know about it because they're pretty territorial. They like their area. And just like us, somebody would start bulldozing our house, we wouldn't care much for it either. So,
well, that's what I said. You come knocking on my back door, you might not get back.
Well, Darrell, since we got you on here, I'm gonna bring you up on the screen here, and you tell us a little bit about your story there, if you don't mind.
Well, I grew up in Tennessee all my life, and my grandfather lived on a farm, and both my grandfathers did. And rural Cannon County, Tennessee, is where my granddad lived, and I lived with my grandparents when I was younger, and my parents worked in Nashville, which was 92 miles away, and I stayed with my granddad and grandmother and learned a lot from them, pretty much everything when I was growing up. And I didn't really know much about Bigfoot. My grandmother had a lot of special abilities and understood the woods and the forests and the creatures that lived there better than anybody I knew. And my granddad was just a real hard-working farmer and well-respected throughout the county. And they weren't rich people. They were poor people, but rich in heart. And the area that they lived was in the middle of nowhere, basically. And I'd never even heard or thought of a creature that existed like that. I'd heard about Bigfoot growing up, but never thought they lived in Tennessee. I thought they'd be out west in Oregon or California or somewhere in Washington State, in that area, close to British Columbia, maybe, but never in Tennessee. And in '92, I had my first encounter on my grandfather's farm. I'd hunted there all my life, and but I'd never been that far in. Now, my grandfather had a pretty good sized farm, but he also had 2 or 3 close friends that had adjoining farms, and I was allowed to hunt there. Me and my 3 friends that I hunted up there with every year on opening week of black powder or muzzleloader. We would go up there every week, and I would take this was after I'd grown, and I was living in Robertson County, about 30 miles from Nashville. And I'd take my camper up there, and I'd pull it with my truck, and they'd follow. 2 of my buddies, one ride with me, would follow me in the truck, and we'd pull our ATVs and on a big trailer, and we'd sit up next to my grandfather's barn, and we'd hunt there for a whole week of black powder season. And every year we've been doing that 4 or 5 years. And that particular year, I told my granddad, I'm really looking for a trophy deer. I'm not looking for one just to shoot to feed for the meat. I just want a trophy deer. And that's what I basically become, was a trophy hunter. I wouldn't shoot anything unless it was really massive, really big, and I'm talking about antler size. And my granddad, we set up camp at the barn, and me and my buddies, three of us, Cody, Jason, and Scott, and when I hung out, my granddad was 92 years old at that time. But that sounds old, but it wasn't old to my granddad. He was like a 60-year-old when he was 92. He was still raising tobacco and crops and had cattle and everything else, and never known anybody quite like him. But that area that, I told him I wanted a trophy deer. My other buddies, we already had tree stands built all around that area in the trees, and plus we had climbing stands too we could carry. I asked my granddad, where's a good place to get a trophy deer? And I was on his back porch, and he pointed out over a couple of hollows, and he said, you see that tree there with the dead limb on it? And I said, yeah. He said, that's where you need to go. He said, that's a pretty remote area. Nobody's been in there in years. So the last time you were in there, you were a young boy, and we drove down there by road and walked in. That's my old home place, and that's probably where you're going to find a big deer, because nobody's been in there in a lot of years, and I would imagine that's where one would be. And I pretty much headed that way. And the next morning, well, that day actually, we'd set up camp, and I had a climbing stand, and I headed that way. And after I crossed the third hill, when I say hill in Tennessee, I'm talking about like 45-degree angle. I mean, they're straight up and down. And after the first hill, I had to cross a barbed wire fence to get to that, where my granddad's cattle were, cows mainly, that he milked. And got to that area. He said, when you get to the bottom of that third ridge, you'll see a large creek, deep creek, not real wide, but 10 or 12 foot wide, and you'll see an old grist mill, what's left of it there. And if you look off to the left, you'll see the remnants of my old home place. The house is fallen in now, but the tin roof is probably still there in the chimney, and it's a clearing there, and you'll see that. You'll know you're in the right spot. And I got to that spot, and I realized where I was at, and it was just like he said. And I found a tree on the hillside and put my tree stand around the tree, and got set up for the next day. Climbed up the tree and cut off a few limbs with a little saw I had, and got everything ready for the next day. And then I had a drag rag I always put on my boot to walk in. It kind of covers the human scent, but at the same time, it has what's called doe and estrus on the rag, which kind of draws in a male deer, which is called a buck. And I went across that creek. I waded through it. It was pretty deep, and it was 10 or 12 foot wide. And up on the top of that other side was a game trail, and I walked right around it. And I found a limb on an oak tree that was probably about 8 foot off the ground, and I jumped up and grabbed it. I'm 6'5", so usually I can reach 8 foot with a little over 8 foot with my arms stretched out. And I hung my drag rag on that limb. It's an elastic piece that goes around your boot, and it kind of filters that hollow there, which will draw in hopefully a buck deer with that smell on the rag. And crossed the creek and went on back to the house and got ready to hunt the next day. And me and my buddies told my granddad, wake me up in the morning when you get up to go milk, and I'll head that way. And he did. He come knocked on the side of my camper, and he said, boy. My granddad always called me boy, my whole entire life. He never called me by my name. And he banged on the side of the camper and said, get up, time to go. And I got up, and I don't remember exactly what time it was. It was dark. It was probably close to 5 o'clock, 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Got me a cup of coffee and sat around the camp there for just a minute or two, and got my gear together, and pretty much headed that way. And then I went right behind my granddad's house and went through a gate that went between his house and into that field. And like the gate back and crossed the field that was about 200 yards wide. It was a sage grass field that time of year. Had grass about up to a little past my waist. Had cows in it. It was barbed wire all the way around. And went on to the other side and climbed the little edge of the barbed wire fence going up that hillside, the first one. And it's about a 7-foot tall fence. And I climbed up it and jumped over into the leaves. And there's a lot of leaves on the ground that time of year. And it made a real loud crunch when I jumped. And I started walking up the side of the hill, going to the same place I went the day before to find my tree stand and get up in it. And I took 3 or 4 steps up the hill, and it was super steep. Like I said, it's about a 45-degree angle. Each one of those hills were. And they're 100 yards minimum from bottom to top before you cross over. So they're straight up. It takes some energy. It's close to a half a mile back in there. And I made 4 or 5 steps up the hillside, and then I heard something walking to the left of me, and it kind of startled me. I stopped real quick, and I shined my flashlight over that area. I didn't see anything, but it just stayed on my mind because I knew there shouldn't be anybody in there. My buddies were in different directions. We had plenty of land to hunt on, and there shouldn't be anybody hunting in there, but it sounded bipedal. It sounded like a person, and I knew there wasn't any horses or cows in there, and stayed on my mind. And I went up the hillside, and I got to the top of the first and the second and the third hill. When I got down, I was coming down the hill to the third hill, and I heard up on the top of the hill to the left of me something walking in the leaves again. It sounded like a person walking, but it was a heavy step, and I shined my light up on top of the hill, a real bright light that I had, and I remember stopping and waiting and shining it again, and I didn't see anything. And it had, whatever it was, had stopped when I did. And when I walk a little bit, I could hear it walking. I'd stop and shine the light, and it would stop. And I never seen anything, but it got me a little nerved because I was thinking, this sounds like a person is in here and hunting in my spot. And I know my granddad wouldn't give permission or allow anybody to hunt here with me down here. And so I got on down the hillside the rest of the way. I found the creek, the stream there, and went around to the left, and I found my tree stand around a tree, a climbing stand, and I got my feet set in it and put straps around them and sat down and started climbing the tree and with my stand. And I have a rope that I tie to my belt, and it's 28 feet from my belt to the ground, and my gun is tied to it by the strap where I can pull my gun up. And I get all the way up, and when it gets tight, I'm about 28 foot off the ground. And this stand, I lean back on it, and it causes it to spike into the tree real good where it won't move. And has a little little bar that comes down in front, and it kind of covers up right below my neck, all the way past my feet, like a little camo tarp that falls. And I pull my gun up, and I put it in between me and the bar, and lean it against the bar. And right behind me, I've got a couple of limbs I cut off, and I put my fanny pack up there, which had some extra black powder, had a black powder horn, some Hornady bullets, and some firing caps. And to the left side, I held a little bit of lunch and a bottle of water and a pair of binoculars hanging on the limb on that side. And I kind of leaned back and dug that bar into the tree real tight where it wouldn't slip. And then I pulled my strap around me, my safety strap, and I tied it off to the limb behind me. And I was ready to hunt. It was still dark, and I wasn't hearing any sounds or nothing walking, and waiting for daylight. And I sat there for a while, and sooner or later, daylight started coming up. And as I looked across the creek into the clearing area where I had hung that drag rag that day before, there was clearing there with oak trees, and the water from that creek, I guess, it was real foggy that morning, and I couldn't see completely across the creek. I could just see blurred vision. as it started to go across, and a lot of leaves out that year, and it was a real heavy harvest of acorns that year, which white-tailed deer love to eat. And I was waiting for everything to get to normal, and finally the fog cleared away, and I could see the clearing across. And I looked to the left of me. There was a huge, tall cane thicket. A cane looks kind of like bamboo, but we call it cane in the South. It may be similar to the same type of substance. It's about, I don't know, 3 or 4 inches round, and it grows 15, 16, 17 foot tall on the river and the creek banks, and it can go all the way down the side of a creek bank to a river, and it gets real thick, and it's real hard to walk between it. It's pretty hard stuff to move, and it takes a heavy animal to move that. And I was just watching real quietly, and I heard the regular animals moving around, squirrels and other things. And then all of a sudden I noticed to the left of me, somewhere down the side of that bank where that cane thicket was, it went on around to a bend, and I couldn't see where it actually ended, but I seen 3 deer came out. They came out somewhere down in that area, and the bigger deer, the doe, walked down in the creek and looked around and walked up on top of the bank on the other side of the creek on the game trail that was on the top of it. And then I watched 2 young deer follow her. They were probably her yearlings. They just act like normal deer. They walked down. Now I'm up on a hillside here, 45-degree almost angle. I'm in a tree about 28 foot up, and I'm almost overlooking the creek at the angle I was, but because I'm straight up on that hillside, and I watched these deer. They walk right down the game trail. The bigger deer, which I figured was the mother of those 2, and those 2 younger ones followed her, and then they just started acting normal. They were milling around in the leaves over there, eating some acorns, and the female deer kind of went to the left, kind of turned and went to the left back. I was kind of looking at her right side, and she had her head down in the leaves, eating acorns, and 2 younger ones, one to the right and one to the left, kind of behind her, and they were all just acting normal. And that was a good sign, because anytime you've got a doe, female deer, there's always a chance that time of year the buck's going to come after that when they go in the rut. So I was feeling pretty confident to see that, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the female deer, the large doe, the mother, I figure, of those 2, were just froze. All 3 of those deer just froze. They were looking right into that cane thicket down that area, and they were as still as they could be. And I thought that to be kind of strange. I've seen deer do that, but normally it doesn't last very long. And the bigger deer, the doe, just kept staring in that one area, and then she took her right hoof or leg and raised it up and kind of like banged it on the ground 3 times, like trying to get something's attention, and looked over there again, and she was being real still. Then she raised her nose and let out this real loud blowing noise. It almost sounds like somebody sneezing, except louder. And I thought, well, there's a big buck. This deer has seen a big buck over here, and it's about to come out of this thicket. It's going to come after this doe, and I'm kind of excited. I've got my gun laying there with 50 caliber black powder muzzleloader with 1 shot, and I watched the deer, just stare away. They were just frozen. They weren't even moving. They were just quiet and as calm as they could be. And I thought, well, this is kind of strange, because normally they'll kind of move around if there's a buck, and then all of a sudden, for no reason at all, the lead deer, the mother doe, turned to the right and run right in front of me on the game trail. I'm looking right down her as fast as she could go, just like somebody had shot at her. And the 2 younger ones going right behind her as fast as they could run. And I watched them run off into the hardwoods, so they disappeared. And You know, only thing I could think of, okay, there's a huge buck about to come out of this cane thicket over here, and I'm going to have a shot at a trophy deer. And I'm sitting there waiting and waiting, and then all of a sudden I seen this cane, and this cane thicket it's 15 to 17 foot tall, and it's real thick. You can't see in the middle of it, but this stuff was swaying. It was swaying from the back edge to the middle and then to the front. I'm thinking, well, this is a massive deer to move that cane like that. And I couldn't imagine a deer, how big this deer was to move that cane like that. You hear it popping and breaking in there because it's hard to walk between that stuff. It would be hard not to break some of it. And I watched it to it come all the way out to the very end of the cane, and I seen it stop, and the cane stopped moving, and all of a sudden this creature steps out, and I'd never seen anything like that in my life, and I was just absolutely froze. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and this thing stepped out, and it just stood there for a second, then it just leaps one jump clean across the creek, 10 or 12 foot across the creek, and it lands on the game trail, and it walks right down slowly the game trail. And like I said, I'm overlooking this game trail, and it's walking the same spot to where the doe deer was and the younger deer were walking, and it walks right and stops and looks, turns and looks right at me. And I'm in the tree overlooking this thing, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. What is this thing? I've never seen anything like this. I was, at that point, I was trying to figure out, what is it? And I've never seen anything like it. And then it showed me its teeth, and it gritted its teeth. It showed me its teeth. It was mad. It was really, really mad. And then it growled, and the growl was a real deep type growl, and it was looking right at me. It knew exactly where I was at. It had to be what I'd heard coming in. And by this point, I was trying to figure out, should I shoot this creature? I got one bullet, a 50 caliber, and I don't know if it's going to take this creature down with one shot. And I didn't want to shoot it, but I didn't want it to come across the creek and pull me out of the tree either. And about that time, it took about 4 or 5 steps that went over to that drag rag that was hanging in the tree that I'd put up there the day before. And I was about 8 foot off the ground or a little more, and its head was about even with that and a little more than that. And it reached up and grabs the rag, sniffs of it, and then just rips the whole tree limb completely out of the tree. And this wasn't a massive limb, but it was 2 or 3 inches in diameter, probably at the base where it went into the tree. And I was just practically in shock by this time. I thought, well, this thing's coming across the creek. It's going to kill me. And it goes right back to where it was standing. It looks at me again, shows me its teeth again, and gritted its teeth, and it was the meanest, ugliest looking thing that I've ever seen in my life. One side of its mouth, which looking down on it would have been, I guess it's the left side of its mouth, was kind of contortioned, like it had some kind of accident or something. It was kind of crinkled up to the side of its face. It's hard to explain, but this thing was really mad, and it was looking at me with the eyes like it was just wanting to kill me. And I had to make a decision: fire on this thing, jump and run. I really didn't know what I was going to do. I was at this time. I was really just trying to get my breath. I couldn't even breathe. I was just so intense thinking what I was seeing here. I couldn't hardly even breathe. And then it lets out this loudest scream yell like I've never heard since. And, you know, Ron Moorhead and I are best friends, and I've heard the Sierra. I've never heard a scream like this thing made. A scream, kind of a cross between a scream and a yell, and it went on for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then it echoed all down that hollow, which was a lot louder than it probably actually was. But by the time that got through ringing, I thought I was dead. Now, this is it. This thing's going to kill me. It's coming across this creek, and it's going to pull me out of this tree. So, you know, I pulled back the hammer on my 50 caliber. I was ready just to fire one shot between the eyes as best I could shoot. And they're not the most accurate thing in the world, but that was about the only choice I felt like I had. If this thing crossed the creek, it was getting a bullet. So, about that time, it turned and walked away from me and looked back, stopped and looked back at me. It was still mad as it was walking. It looked back one time. It walked straight ahead, and I watched it walk off into the hardwoods till I couldn't see it anymore, and it disappeared. Well, it takes 15 minutes to climb down that tree at that tree stand. I lowered the bar all the way down in front of me. I grabbed my rifle in my hand, and I jumped out of the top of the tree. And I hit the leaves on the side of that hillside and slid all the way down into the creek, up to past my waist. I jumped up out of the water, went upside the hill, and headed back to where I came from. And I was running as hard as I could run. I've never run that fast, I don't believe, in my life. And looking back every few steps, make sure this thing wasn't coming after me. And I got over the top of the first hill. I was running this. I was so out of breath by the time I got to the top of the first hill because, you know, it's a good 80 to 100 yards or more to the top of that. It may have been 150 yards. It was a long way, but a couple of the hills were a little further than the other ones to the top. And I was just gassed out. I couldn't breathe. And I got to the top. I had to take a break for a second. I was looking. I didn't see it. And I crossed down the hillside. I just about made it down the second, started up to the second hill, and I looked back on top of the hill, and there it stood. It was standing on top of the hill next to a tree, just standing there looking right at me. Well, all that did was just kick in what adrenaline I had left, and I ran faster and hard as I could to the top of the the second hill, and I looked back. I didn't see it coming after me. It was just standing there. And, you know, thinking about it today, and I've thought about it over the last 30-something years, it was probably another one. I don't think it was the same one. But time I got to I was coming down the third hill, looking back, I did not see it. I had to either stop and climb the barbed wire fence to get to my grandfather's field or jump it. Well, I decided to jump. So I was running as fast as I could down that hill, and I jumped the barbed wire fence. It's about 7 foot tall. There was a regular fence. The 2 strands on top are make it about 7 foot tall. 2 strands of barbed wire, and I cleared them, but it caught the edge of my pants and ripped them way up past my knee and tore a huge gash in the side of my leg with a barbed wire, and I just kept running. I hit the ground and ran through that sagegrass field. Looking back, didn't see nothing. Got to the other side of the field, opened the gate, went in the gate, reached back in, locked the gate, went straight back into my grandfather's old wood farmhouse. The back porch is where that went up to. It was an overhang on it. It was an old tin roof wood farmhouse, and went into the back through the back door, which went into the kitchen area, and ran in and reached back out and put the little hook on the screen door and slammed the door and locked it and looked out the window and the door and didn't see anything. Made sure this thing wasn't still coming after me, and then I ran into the living area, to my grandfather's living room area, and he was sitting to the left in his rocking chair, and I went over to the right in the corner, and there was a big potbelly stove there, and I sat down in the corner next to it and was just trying to get my breath. And I was so out of breath I just couldn't breathe. And my granddad looked at me and said, "Boy, you look like you've seen a ghost." And I was just trying to be able to talk. It took me a minute or two, and I got up and walked down the same way I came in, looked out the window, didn't see the creature, didn't see it coming after us or coming toward the house, and went back in and sat on the couch. And by that time, I got my breath a little bit. And he said, "Boy, what's wrong with you?" I said, "I seen a monster in the woods, Granddad." He goes, "A monster?" I said, "Yeah, I seen a monster in the woods." He goes, "There ain't no monsters around here, boy." And I said, "Oh, yeah, there is. I seen one." He goes, "What does it look like?" And I told him, I said, "It was 8 foot tall or a little taller, and it was black, and it was the meanest, ugliest looking thing I ever seen." And showed me its teeth. It growled and screamed at me. And he said, "Oh, you seen a wood booger?" And I said, "A wood booger?" I said, "What is a wood booger?" I said, "I've lived here with you most of my life and hunted on this farm, and you never mentioned no wood booger." He goes, "Nope. Didn't want you to be afraid of the woods or afraid to camp out or afraid to spend the night in the barn with your friends and frog gig the pond and everything else." He said, "They don't bother you. They're real territorial." And he said, "Seen 4 in my lifetime. Heard more than that and know they're around, but I've seen 4 clean as a bale," as he said. "I'll be working in the field and there'd be one standing at the fence watching me." And he said, "In the wintertime, they get hungry and they come to my chicken house." He had a big old huge chicken house to the left of his house. And he said, "They come get 2 or 3 chickens and they don't take them all. They're not raiders. They leave a little pile of rocks and sticks like they're paying for them. And I let them have them when they need them. And they don't give me no problem." And that's pretty much what it was. It was most terrifying. I don't scare easy anyway. Never have. And but that was the most fear I've ever had in my life. It took me. I didn't go in the woods for 7 years after that. I didn't hunt anymore. Me and my buddies still went up there every year. I stayed at the house with my granddad. I told him I didn't care to deer hunt no more. And I pretty much hung out with him and didn't hunt anymore. But it took me a long time to get over that. I had nightmares for 2 or 3 months of this thing coming after me, and I was real shocked how I took that. But it was definitely life changing. It was the most life changing experience that I've ever had, and it set me on a journey that I never thought that I'd be into, and it's continued to this day. And I've seen many Bigfoot since then. I befriended a family on the river back in 1999 up to about 2004, and they were my friends, and I became very close to those creatures, and that's pretty much how mine started.
Man, I tell you, you was talking about you jumped that fence and tore those pants. I bet those pants honestly wasn't good for much, even if before you ripped them, was they?
Well, one thing about it, they wasn't worth much after I'd done it. That's for sure.
Yeah. Everybody else, I have you muted in here. You're welcome to unmute yourself. So actually, I'll go through and unmute. I just didn't want the interruptions there. But there you have another story too, and what you experienced with it has something in common with one of our members, Trisha, talking about the dog man that come out of the big ditch
Yeah.
and everything. If you would talk a little bit about that story, because I've only heard it on a couple of other YouTube channels, and so we've had to go around and reference things for that. But we have a video too of Trisha that's going to be on our next week's video.
Yeah, you had told me that. I know, Trish. That's a very strange feeling to see that creature. Martin Groves, which I talk to Martin a lot, since he's such a close friend to me and has been for years. only reason we're not together tonight is because I'm not in Tennessee, but you know, Martin and I really got into. I got a little bit out of Bigfoot researching probably about 7 years ago, and mainly I've pretty much done what I wanted to do with Bigfoot. And if I could find another family on the river like I had, I would be more than happy to go back to that. But the chances of that are pretty rare. And you know, the the first Dogman that I seen was in 2021, and it was in Tazewell County, Virginia. And that particular Dogman was nothing like the one I seen in the LBL that we're talking about. It looked more like a real flesh and blood type creature. It looked like a black German Shepherd, about 3 times the size of a normal German Shepherd, and it ran across the field. It didn't run; it galloped, and across a large field. I've gotten contacted to a gentleman at a store, Old Country store, that this thing was killing his great aunt's goats, and I didn't know what kind of creature it was. And I've kind of hooked up with the guy and followed out to his place, and spent almost a month on his place trying to find out where this thing was coming in. I knew when I seen the tracks what it was, because I know the difference between a Bigfoot track and a Dogman track. I've seen 2 different type of Dogman tracks. There are different Dogmen. They're not all the same like Bigfoot. There's numerous ones of those too, and not all of them look the same. And
Question for you there, Darrell. You said you've seen a bunch of Dogman tracks. Can you explain what they look like?
well, the particular Dogman track that this made was kind of elongated. It had a hawk on the end of it. It had 5 claws, 1 larger claw to the left, and then 4 smaller. They all kind of went down a little bit at a time, and the last digit was a lot thinner than the larger digit, which would be like the thumb area. And on that particular creature in Tazewell County, you know, the one that I've seen at the LBL had more of a canine type foot. Matter of fact, I've got pictures of it. Martin Groves and I took numerous pictures of Dogman tracks in the LBL in a whole lot of different locations. And those look more like huge wolf tracks, except I think the largest one we had was 8 inches across and 11 inches long. And I've still got those tracks. So
we have that right there. That track come out of the LBL. And I know there's a deer track that stepped on it coming back the other way. I know that in there, but like we have been people showing us 3-toed tracks. That one, this one.
that looks more like a. That's a little different than the Dogman tracks I've seen. Now that's similar, but your smaller digit to the back would be the hawk, and it would be longer, probably 3 or 4 inches, or the back part of the leg would be bended into the snow in that particular picture.
Like this one right here, where it's the one
Do you
at the
have
back.
the full photo of it? Like how you can see like the print and then like the kind of arm and like the elbow? What would
Yeah,
be
that looks a little more like it. That's not a fresh track. That's a little older track.
Yeah, it's older. Yeah,
because the dirt's falling into the places that's hard. It's a little more harder to determine what I'm trying to talk about here, but I could definitely believe that could be a Dogman track. It looks like that it has the toes in front that looks that way. Now, I personally, I've seen them with 5 toes. I've seen them with 4 toes. 3 toes are normally 4 toes, but they're mashed together and it makes it look like a 3-toe instead of 4. They're kind of together at the end, and that's what I believe, because I believe they all have 5 toes, unless they're like some of the Bigfoot that I'm aware of that have 3 toes, and most of those are due to interbreeding because of the smaller population in the area. But I don't know about Dogman if that's the case. I'm not an expert on anything, but saying my prayers. But I know that tracks are different on these creatures, and I've even seen one from Bowling Green, Kentucky, that tore the door off a barn in 2022, and it had more of a three-toed look. But after you get down and look at it real close and put it up on a screen, you can actually see the fourth toe is mashed against the third toe, if you know what I'm saying. So
I do.
it's a little hard to see sometimes on that. The one in the LBL, I've seen three Dogman in the LBL. The last one the one before the last one I seen that when Martin Groves in 2023, and the ravine you're talking about, it's actually a culvert right there. And it's an old creek bed is what it is. I called it a ravine because pretty much the same thing. And that was probably that was 12 o'clock at night or maybe a little later when we seen that one. It was 5 to 7 foot for me. It could have just jumped right in and took me out if it wanted to. That was apparently in the same place that I believe your daughter's seen the one you're mentioning. But that particular creature I've never seen a creature like that in my life. It went from a kind of a blue mist, a reddish blue mist. When I looked over it into that ravine, as we're going down that road, and you know the road I'm talking about, we're doing just enough for the truck to move. We had just stopped, and we had been there 3 days, Martin and I had. We had just stopped and had a snack on the back of his tailgate. Stopped the truck, lowered the tailgate, got out and had something to eat, and then shut the tailgate up and just got back in. We had just started, and maybe 2 to 3 miles an hour at the fastest right through that area. And we go real slow through there anyway because we don't want to miss anything. And when I seen that mist, it changed from that mist into a silver gray looking creature. And it was laying down it was like a cat going to pounce on you. That's how I describe it. Because that's what it looked like. It was in a pronounced position like that. And it was looking right at me. I'm looking right out the window at it, and it's looking right at me. The window's down. Martin's window's down. And this thing has deep, clear eyes, like clear socket, like a flashlight eyes. It has mane around its neck like a line. And it's just staring at me with this kind of smirk like on its face. And I thought, well, this thing's fixing to jump in on top of me because it looked like it was about to pounce. And about that time, it gets up, and it really didn't walk. It was almost like it glided. It went right by me. I thought it was going to come in the window on me. I really did. But it put out some type of infrasound or zapping or whatever you want, they do. I personally believe it's a radioactive thing they do to you. I've been zapped twice by Bigfoot, once by Dogman, and this was the first time I've felt that before. My legs were kind of numb. My upper chest was real heavy. I had a headache, and my breathing was different. Martin was a lot worse than me. He was driving. He kept yelling at me, Darrell, I can't breathe, Bubba. I can't breathe. And he had an allergic reaction. This thing did something. I can't smell like I used to since I had COVID, but Martin can. And he said the truck smelled so bad inside that he couldn't hardly breathe from that, much less what it had done to him. He was feeling the same aspects I was feeling. And his tongue had swelled together in his throat, and he was having a real hard time breathing. And I said, Martin, let me drive. Let's get us to a safe spot and get you out. Let's get you to the hospital. No, let me. I'll be okay. Let me get out of here. And this creature goes around the back of the truck. It comes down his side of the truck. I've got my flashlight. By that time, I'd start getting my senses back. I was moving around pretty good. I still was a little lethargic, and I wasn't moving good, but I was a lot better than Martin. And I was trying to hold the steering wheel, and I had my flashlight in my hand trying to shine it at this creature. I didn't know if it was going to come down his side and jump in and get him, or what it was going to do. And there was a field to the right of us there, and it started going through that field, and I shined a light on it, and you could. The strangest thing about the creature, it was a real complete creature, but it was also transparent. You could see through the creature. The flashlight would shine through it. So I know it makes no sense, but that's the way it was. And we watched it. I watched it go through that field as far as my light could go, and then I heard it going up into the woods, breaking some limbs and stuff. And I was just trying to get the truck turned around and get Martin back to an area to get him out in the light and make sure he was okay. And we did that. We turned around and got back and went to found an area that had a light next to a restroom, and got him out, got him some water. He still wasn't feeling good, and he was sick for. I'm thinking he was sick for way over a week. I'm thinking close to 2 weeks. I mean, he wasn't completely sick like he was that night, but he was sick, and that's the strangest creature I've ever seen. I don't really know how to explain it. It was real, but at the same time, it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. I've never seen a creature do what that one did. And when Small Town Monsters did the documentary on that back in 2024 on that, what we'd seen, since then, I've had several people reach out to me and tell me, hey, we seen the same thing. We could see through it, and not in that particular area, but in other areas, they had seen that same type of Dogman. So this thing had a huge head. I think that was the first thing that got my attention. The head was probably half the size of our windshield.
Yeah, we got one in a tree here. It was up in a tree, and the funny thing about this photo
They love
is
trees. Dogmen are really well known to be in trees, especially in the Smoky Mountain area. The late great Scott Carpenter was a good friend of mine, and he had a lot of pictures of dogmen in trees.
that one there. The funny thing about that is there were 3 dogmen there. This one right here is one, but in the main photo that we got this from, there are 3 dogmen there. It is the damnedest thing I'd ever seen. I mean, like that one is off of that, but we have other angles. We have other angles from that original photo that like shows them. That one, but the damnedest thing of it is, Darrell, do you see that shadow person?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Look how far that is off of the ground. It's like,
I can tell you what, I've been around so many creatures since 1992 that there's just things that's very hard for our human brain to wrap around. It's how some of these creatures are even possible. First of all, you got your general public out there that doesn't have a clue that these things exist, but Bigfoot, Dogman, and some other things. I've seen other things in the LBL. I've seen a crawler. I've seen other creatures too. But these creatures are out there, and I've been around 4 Dogmen, more than that, but 4 that I could clearly see, and not one of them has ever tried to attack me. And of course, Martin, almost killed in '93 when they tried to attack him and Harry, his partner, and. I don't really understand how these creatures think or what their process of that is. I do think there's bad and good in every creature. I don't think all of them are completely evil of anything, like people. And there's maybe more good than bad. I don't know. But I do think there's Bigfoot that will eat you. I think they will kill you and eat you. I do believe that. I know that the real forest people on the river that I was friends with for so long felt the same way. And these creatures somehow have an ability, and it sounds crazy because it's not what we're used to hearing, but they have an ability to mutate, go into go into trees. I don't even know how to explain what I'm trying to say. I've seen some evidence lately that, we're going on an expedition in an area here in about the next 3 or 4 months. So probably the most dangerous thing that I've ever done. And, I'm doing it because I feel like I need to do it. And Martin's going with us, and Ron Moorhead, and my buddy Mike Smith. But we have a guy that and his producer that wants to film this. And some of the creatures I've seen in this area are pretty frightening because there's stuff out there that we're not aware of, and I'm not even sure that it makes any sense to even talk about it because it doesn't make sense. But that's a great track right there. That's a really good track.
I just want to say something about this print right here. Darrell, I had somebody send me a message that told me that I did that with a shovel.
I learned a long time ago, okay? And I truly believe in this, and I'm saying this because I hope everybody feels this way. As long as you're an honest, straightforward person and you're telling the truth, not adding or taking away from, I don't get fazed by anybody. I don't care where anybody believes what I say or not, because I gave up on trying to make people believe 25 years ago. So you're only the one that knows if you've done something or haven't done something. It surely doesn't look like a shovel to me, but
yeah, I just had to put that out there. Just in case
anything. That's the good thing about my group. Bigfoot believers and other creatures. We don't allow any criticism, any bullying, any ridicule. If you don't agree with somebody's picture, I have no problem with that. Scroll on to the next one and don't criticize, ridicule, or bully, because if you do, you're out.
Yes.
Well, they said, well, they told her also, well, maybe she should have laid a dollar bill down there. She didn't have her purse with her. I mean, she's in there. The team is in there, and they're investigating. That's a pretty good sized little rock right there, right next to it.
Yeah.
Even if that ain't a Dogman, that's a big ass canine footprint. And
I tell you what, of all the tracks you showed me so far, I would lean real good thinking that was a Dogman track. I really would. It looks like I'm guessing that the ground was real damp and muddy at the time that print was made, and that's why it's so good, because you can see the indenture how it's pushed. So, and it's dry at the time that you took this picture, but it was like a pretty good track to me. So,
yeah, I think but see, that's the thing about Trisha there. She lets what people tell her, what they tell her, get to her. I mean, because in 2022, Trisha was in West Virginia. She was at an overlook at Grandview State Park, and she's there with her family. They're just having a family day. And they're looking down, and she sees something down about a mile down to the river. Something walking down the railroad tracks, and she looks at it and it looks black. And so she zoomed into it, and you can see, well, I know it's probably hard for you to see on your phone.
Oh, yeah, I see it. Yeah.
There, right? Well, that was as far as she could zoom in with her phone. So she screenshotted it, and she zoomed in on the screenshot. And she caught her a Bigfoot. Okay? And you can plainly see
good shot.
Yeah, you can see its head. Man, that is not a bear. Look at the railroad tracks.
Yeah. I wouldn't. Patricia, I can tell you this, Patricia, don't let it bother you. You do your thing, and if somebody doesn't want to believe you, just let them have at it, because you know what you've seen and what you've experienced. And like I said, I learned a long time ago. I don't try to convince anybody of anything. I know what I've seen. I know what I've experienced, and I'm going to tell it the way it is. And if somebody don't believe it, then that's okay. I don't care.
Yeah. That's on them to not to believe.
Yeah,
exactly.
I was sitting down with Martin the very first day that I'd met him, picnic table, and I'm sorry, it was like the second day I was there, and we sat down at a picnic table, and we were talking about some personal things that I had been through, and just talking about work I've been doing in there and work that he has done, and he told me he's got to debunk it. And I was like, I don't know. And he goes, whatever or said to you by anybody, you let it roll off your back because only
Yep.
you know what you experience. Only you know what you see. And I've stuck by that ever since, he said that to me. Now, back in 2021, when I got that picture, I wasn't big into all of this. Like, I loved my Sasquatch shirts, but I wasn't big into the research. And I kept trying to tell myself I was crazy. Well, then I reached out to Les Odell and was talking to him about it. And he was sharing some information with me, and I started opening up to it. And then we had an analysis report done on it. And I was like, whoa, I'm not crazy.
Well, Les is a
No,
pretty
that
good. Les is a pretty good experiencer and researcher. I think a lot of Les. So like I said, don't even pay no attention to that stuff. You just go straight forward and go on by. And Martin told you right, and I don't. First of all, who gives anybody the right to tell me what I did see and what didn't see? So they weren't there, and they don't know. So you believe in yourself, and that's all that matters.
Les told me when I went up to West Virginia for the Bigfoot Festival this last year. He said that photo of Trisha's there may be the best photo of a Sasquatch in West Virginia to ever surface.
I wouldn't doubt that. I really wouldn't. That's pretty good. It really is.
And I mean,
Uh,
because it's distinguishable, you can make out all the features. And we did have it. We did have it analyzed. It analyzed it. It said that it was around 4'2" wide. Uh, it was obviously setting at a standing height. It'd be anywhere from 7'6" to 9 foot tall, and weigh between 600 and 900 pounds.
it's a big boy there.
You want to know what AI said it was? When we put it through AI and I put it in, I said, tell me what you think this is. And it ruled out a gorilla because gorillas are not native to West Virginia or North America. It ruled out human because of the sheer size of it and the location. And it says that this must be what is known as the Appalachian Sasquatch. And that comes straight from AI. I never asked it if I thought it was a Bigfoot
Yeah.
or anything like that. And like that totally blew my mind. But also, I missed a question here in chat. Mark Roberts, he asked, he says, when you were talking about getting the infrasound blasted there at that crevice, he says, do you think it was radiation possibly? Did you ever have any hair loss or anything like that?
That's a subject that Ron Moorhead and Martin Groves, myself, and even Barton Nunley, it goes back to Joe and Jesse too of Hellbent Holler. So, we discussed this 4 or 5 years ago, and how the radiation come up, because like I said, I've been personally zapped 3 times, twice by Bigfoot and once by the Dogman that I was speaking of a minute ago. And the Dogman was probably the least worst of the two. The Cheatham County, Tennessee was my first zapping of a Bigfoot, and it was completely different. It was more stomach. It was delusional. It felt like your legs went to sleep. You couldn't hardly, like you had to try to get your legs working again, and to get up and run. But the radiation came in, and the fact that we had brought up the fact that infrasound, whales do infrasound and some certain animals, but they don't have an effect that like this does. And it's been 3 or 4 years ago, maybe not quite that long. Scott Carpenter had told me he thought it might be some kind of radiation before he passed too. And then it just so happened that Joe and Jesse Joe and Jesse Dole of Hellbent Holler were in a certain area that they were researching, and they carry a Geiger counter with them, and they run across a track in the woods, and they took the Geiger counter and picked up radiation in that track. So
Yeah, that's interesting.
that kind of let me believe that maybe we're on to something here, because I know when I got hit the last time, I was sick, but it wasn't like I'd been before, but it lingered. It lingered for a couple of months, actually, before I felt completely back like I was. Martin, his went on for 2 weeks, like really sick, and he got over it, but it's still a feeling. It's hard for me to explain that you have. So, I wish I had the right answer, but yes, I do think it's some type of radiation these creatures are able to put out. These creatures also can drain your batteries, your camera, your flashlights. I've been into the woods in certain areas that we were researching, and I've had my watch go dead. So,
But it's funny you'd say that. Because we were there for 5 days. And on our third day in there, we went in early because when we got this this Dogman photo right here, and I know it's blurry, but we're talking, I zoomed in 200 yards. That was within 175, 200 yards in behind us. So I had to zoom in, and it was taking an old crappy iPhone. But we went in that day to go into that area and take pictures exactly from where my wife had took that one, to see if we could reproduce that, to try to debunk it, because I didn't want to show this picture and, then find out later, well, that's something up in that tree.
right.
And, but so we went in, and the third day we went to a cemetery there, Downs 2 Cemetery. You probably know it all too well.
Mm-hmm.
So we were in there for a night investigation, and we were in there with Night Vision Paranormal. And so we were kind of doing howls, tree knocks, and they were doing the paranormal thing with the Ovulus, and we had EMF and all that stuff. And man, all this stuff was corresponding with each other. We had 3 different devices, an Ovulus and 2 EMFs, and they were all working simultaneously together. But every time I would howl, we would get some type of response, either it be on one of those boxes or movement in the woods right around us. Now, when we first started, I had set a camera in there that had been fully charged. I charged everything the day before we went in there. Nothing had been turned on. And a battery that was supposed to last 2 hours was dead in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, all of my stuff started dying. And like, I pulled out this big jump starter. I got one of those big Ever-Ready jump starter boxes for the car. And I started plugging stuff into it, to keep the cameras rolling. But every battery we had died.
Yeah.
Other than that big jump starter,
Had it happen many a time.
Yeah, so that.
Hey, Darrell.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Giorgio, right? The guy does all the ancient aliens and all that stuff.
Yes.
The guy with the real crazy hair. He had he's one of my friends on my Facebook or stuff. I talk to him a lot. And he said that I told him, I said, these Bigfoot throwing rocks. I said, did you get a fingerprint off of it? He goes, no. Well, this man he went to see in Alaska had a rock that Bigfoot had thrown at him. And I said to him, well, see if it's got radiation to it. It had no radiation, but when he put an electrical meter to it, the meter went, "Ing."
Wow.
So, and now this guy's had this rock for 4 or 5 years. Giorgio went to another place where these 2 guys do this farm, and the Bigfoot stacked the rocks. Like a pyramid. The very top rock always has electrical meter to it. Zoop, but the rest of them don't. Do you think that's something that they're using for each other, or it's just in their skin? It's something they're putting out?
Well,
is it a way to say, this is my rock, this is my this is my woods?
I think this is only my speculation and what I believe. I don't have any evidence that this to be true, but I believe that Bigfoot and possibly Dogman, first of all, they have a higher vibration than we do. They're higher energy, and it's well known that higher energy will it goes into what Ron calls the quantum Bigfoot, and the quantum is the higher vibration your body has, and the higher your vibration, the more matter can transfer itself. And if you even go back to Einstein and read about that, because it's nothing but truth. It's the higher the vibration, the matter in your body or matter in anything can transfer itself to a higher vibration of energy. I know that Bigfoot has that ability to do that. I'm not sure that it would have something to do with them to be able to transfer themselves into another dimension or a portal. I do believe portals exist. Scott Carpenter had a great picture of one. Jennifer Appleton in my group had one of the best ones I've seen. I've seen pictures of portals in certain areas, even the LBL. I do think these creatures have the ability to transform themselves into an orb, or what we call a ball of light. Have I ever seen one go cloak or interdimensional right in front of me? No, I have not. But I do believe they can. I don't know if all of them can, but I believe certain ones can. And I know for a fact I've seen them walk behind a tree and never come out. And I believe somehow they go into the trees. I know it may sound crazy, but I do believe they're able to do that somehow, some way. Dr. Matthew Johnson, a lot of people don't believe in his vision, but I do. I think, funny thing about Dr. Matthew Johnson, if you look him up, Dr. Matthew Johnson, he experienced a lot of the same things I did back in the 90s. Now, I never even heard of the guy. Mike Patterson called me up and said, listen to this Dr. J guy. He sounds like you. And I started listening to his 3 different videos that he had, and he says they can form themselves and go right into trees also. The energy vibration somehow allows them to do that. And I know it sounds off the wall, some of this stuff, but these creatures, who believes us anyway when you start talking about these creatures? So, they're able and have the ability and the energy to transform themselves. So I think they're capable of doing a whole lot of other things that we don't even know. Dr. Johnson says they can heal people.
I've heard that too. I've done shows where people have said they've been healed with scoliosis and everything else, where the females pulled him out. You might have heard the same story. Pulled him out of his tent, and he passed out. Woke up the next morning, scoliosis was gone.
Yeah, I do believe that.
We did a show not too long ago where Confederate soldiers say that they were hitting in their diaries, stating how Bigfoot took them into caves and healed them and put them back up when they're ready to go. I'm a member of Skinwalker Ranch, so I watched their cameras at night. And one night I saw one of the houses, one of the ranch houses, no windows. The door opens up and the door closes. And everybody goes, oh, it's the wind. But the leaves didn't move on the floor, and there's no windows. Well, when the door is shut, the handle turns. And then behind it, you see this black object, what looks like a Bigfoot, walk across, behind the window. And as it comes out the other side, where the camera's only got like 3 foot, there's a shimmering Bigfoot. Like they did Predator, you can see him shimmer and just disappear. Now, when I tell people that, they go, we want to know, it's logged, because we have to log all that stuff. So I believe that Bigfoot can go into trees. How many times you see that Bigfoot with a 12-inch tree peeking that big body out around, you don't see the rest of the body?
Yeah.
It's there's lots of people that that really don't even look for to tell their story or to tell anything about what they've witnessed with these creatures over the years. I've talked to some of these people. They don't want to get on the radio. They don't want to get on a podcast. They don't want to be well known. They don't want anybody to know who they are. But I've talked to some of these people in privacy. I used to get called to homes everywhere. I had 3 teams. And we would go out all the time back in 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, we had so many people messaging and calling us, wanting us to come out and tell us what kind of creatures they had. These people had some incredible stories of what these creatures had done for them. And I had one farmer from Jackson County, Tennessee, swore up and down a Bigfoot healed his horse. The vet couldn't heal it, and he said the Bigfoot did. He was a friend of the family's. So I don't know. I don't know what's true and what's not true, but I can't say it's not. So I do think that they have a natural ability that we don't understand, and I think it has a whole lot to do with their higher vibration, and which causes a big difference in the body's functions on what it's capable of doing. So, going back to my grandmother used to tell me that we all have the abilities to do special things. We just don't practice them. And
I have a video here. You was talking about, orbs and stuff like that. I have a video that Patricia got. I don't know. Tricia, what holler was you coming out of when you took that video?
That was coming out of Colson Hollow.
But let's see here.
I've seen orbs all over Colson Hollow. I've seen them all over Red Hollow. Red Hollow's right next to Colson.
Y'all about to hear me get moody, Doug.
What's up here? It's a reflection. I'm gonna try to. Yeah, it's hunkered down up there. I just saw it again. Stop. Keep going, but go very slow. I don't know, a fucking shadow that just walked across the road just now.
Her camera will focus somewhat here in a second.
Okay.
There we go. You see it?
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
I believe I believe this is my personal belief only. I believe those creatures have the ability with their higher vibration to transform themselves into light objects like that and move along. So I've actually got a picture of one from Beth Collinsworth, who's one of the most intuitive people I know from Lebanon, Tennessee, who's also in my group, one of my admin. And she has a blue orb that stays around her house all the time. At nighttime, it's around the house all the time. You can actually see a Bigfoot face in the orb.
There's something in the weeds right there.
So do you think that explains why you'll see Bigfoot tracks run through a field and just disappear? You think they turn into an orb and fly off?
Either that or they go interdimensional.
Hey, Darrell, you see this light right here where my mouse is pointing at?
Yeah, I do see it, yeah.
That showed on camera but did not show visual.
Now I'm looking at a light in those woods. I'm literally just knocked me off of it.
Oh, sorry.
I was in Cheatham County. In that area you're talking about, you're right there you're in Colson's Hollow. Colson's Hollow, if you come down Colson's Hollow, to the right side is Red Hollow. You know where I'm talking about?
Yeah, Red Hollow.
We have seen tons of orbs in red. I've seen a spear type orb going through the woods very slow in Red Hollow. And Colson Hollow's, just right next to that. So I'm sure that the same entities or the same light orbs are going to be in the same areas, but or different ones, but they're all related, I believe. So that was very good capture. It really was. It was a good job. I've seen orbs as big as beach balls. I've seen 2 red ones where they're red, pink, and orange in Cheatham County, Tennessee in 2018. Billy Howell and I seen them 30 foot from us. They came out of the sky and they hovered above the ground about 2 foot. Watched them for over 2 hours, and they went on down toward our gifting spot and went off into the woods. Very strange. And then the next week we had them orbs about the same size as a softball. 6 or 7 of them just buzzing around us. Wouldn't leave us alone. So
Yeah,
it's definitely a type of energy that something transfers into, and I believe it has a lot to do with these creatures.
I tell you, I've seen some stuff, man. But going in there, like I was, we had went into Martin's attack site and had went in up there, and Trisha and the rest of our team, they went up the hill to the right after you crossed the creek. They went up to the hill to the right. Well, I stayed down and walked a game trail that went up beside that old dried up creek bed. I walked that up in there, and when I got in,
Bigfoot are all over that area.
yeah, like so I get up there to where there's a bunch of down trees, and we have to go and meet James later on that day, anyways. So I get up in there so far, and man, I just get that feeling. I get that feeling like I'm being watched, and then I started hearing knocks.
It's really not a safe area to be in. I've been in there at night before too, and pitch dark, way up at the creek, Russian Creek. So, you need that. That's not a safe area to be in. I think we had small town monsters up there when we were doing the documentary, Martin and I believe they seen some type of creature behind them. It was scared them so bad they wouldn't go back in there again. But
Well, I got if you can see, I'm sure you can see it. If you look center of this picture and go up, you can see the outline of something there in the weeds watching me.
Looks like 3 of them.
So, like,
I believe you got 3 in there.
I zoomed in on that one right there. Okay.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about that is, like I said, the rest of the team went on up to the right, and they'd went up in there, and I'm down there, and like I start coming out, and I've got my camera flipped on the selfie mode, so I'm watching behind me with my phone because I done had a bunch of knocks, and I send it to one of our NCI team members, the video, and he calls me, and he's like, "Hey man," he said, "you got movement over your left shoulder." So we go back to the video, and like this right here, you can see in that video its foot move. You can see its foot move, and that's how we caught that. Well, when my wife was coming back out, she's taking photos. She's taking photos of that holler coming back out. Well, if you look dead center of this and you go up about a half an inch, you'll see something dark there.
Right there in the middle.
Yep. So that's a picture of the Bigfoot that was watching me that I took those other pictures off of. I was just right down in the holler. Just right down in the holler below it. You can see it there, and I was down there. Well, it's kind of thick there, but it was watching me through the weeds.
And they're the best ever at peeking and observing because they enjoy peek. I call them peekers. They enjoy watching people. But
we had most
of the big. I don't think that most of the Bigfoot and the LBL are very. They're just they're a different type of Bigfoot. There may be some bad ones there too. I'm not saying there's not, but most of the ones I've encountered in the LBL are just don't want to be bothered, and they watch you, and they make sure you're not there to harm them. So they're peekers, watchers. They love to do that.
Yeah. Well, we went to Russian Creek on our 4th day. We went into Russian Creek, and
I've had them throw sticks, rocks, everything at me in Russian Creek.
We were standing there like Trisha and my wife just disappeared on me, right? And I'm standing there talking to Mark Roberts, his son-in-law, and Doug, Trisha's husband, Doug. He's there standing there with me, and I caught something movement out of my peripheral vision, and I turn my head and I look, and I see something black walking through the woods. I mean, just right out in the open, walking through the woods. Well, it immediately my mind told me that it was Trisha. because she had on a black hoodie and all that stuff that day. And I look at her husband and I was like, what's Trisha doing down there walking by herself? He's like, Trisha's not down there. He said, she went down the road with Cindy, my wife. And I turn and I point and I said, well, who in the hell is that? And when I look, it's gone. Okay, it's gone. So I'm rushing to try to get my camera going because I just turned my camera off. And I'm rushing trying to get my camera going, and we run up to it. Well, we don't see it. But as Mark Roberts, he ran up ahead of me and kind of went up onto the top of the little ridge, and he could hear it crashing down through the holler where it had crossed over the hill. And he heard it. Well, so we part ways there, and I'm walking on into Russian Creek to try to meet back up with Trisha and my wife. And Trisha and them start smelling it. And she don't even know what's going on. I sent Doug ahead to run down that way, but she didn't even know what was going on, but she smelled it. So we walk our way in a little bit closer, and like we got there to where the road forks, and if you can go left on down into Russian Creek, or you can go right and it comes out to like a little overlook area. Well, we went to the left, and we hadn't made it 75, 100 yards down that road, and we start picking up movement on the top of the ridge in front of us. And Trisha and I both see it up there moving. And I'm trying my damnedest to get to get it on camera, but it's up so far that I had my iPhone and I couldn't zoom in close enough to it. But I did catch it on video, and it was peeking out from around this tree at us here. And on the video that I have, you can see it turn because I started walking further to the left, and it turns to see me better. And we plainly got it on the video turning. And then you get your haysayers that says, "Oh, that was a stump." No, it wasn't no damn stump. I seen it move. The video shows it move. I've never seen a stump just turn its head, turn its trunk to watch me as I'm walking down by. But I believe that I found a nest down there in a tree. Huge nest. So
they'll do that. And Dogman will definitely get in the trees. I know that for sure. Bigfoot will get in the trees.
Yes, Randy?
Darrell, I got a question to ask you. Of course, I do Bigfoot shows all week long. And the NCI team has a theory, and I want to hear what you think. Do you believe that the Dogman could be working with Bigfoot? Because every time they run across the juveniles, a Dogman shows up. It's like, look over here, and they run over here. You know what I'm saying? Do you think maybe they're using them, getting them as pups, raise them like we do German Shepherds? Are they helping them, hunt?
Well, I mean, for a long time, of course, Martin and I have been such good friends so long. I never even heard of a Dogman until Martin Groves had his incident back in '93, 4 months after mine. And, for a long time, people thought that Dogman and Bigfoot were enemies. They wouldn't work together. And I've heard that over and over. I think it's still that way in certain areas. But I think overall it's become that they do work together, and I do think that in some areas they're together a whole lot. They even may live together, but I think they're a completely different creature. I don't think they breed together or nothing like that. I think I do believe that Dogman has different abilities than Bigfoot does. I believe there's different kinds of Dogman, like there are different kinds of Bigfoot. So, when you look at the situation Martin Groves I had back when he had in '93 on the attack, and I was in Devil's Backbone is where it was at, and the area that you're talking about, Russian Creek, goes into that area. His area then was a lot different than it is today. And, he and I've discussed many a times, he had those dog-looking creatures that attacked him and Harry at the camp. and then the two Bigfoot creatures were in front of the truck trying to stop them from getting out. So it looks like they were working together then, but I'm not completely sure that what he had in front of the truck wasn't Gugway, and he's not either. Since we talked about it, it could have very easily been two Gugway. Gugway are more loners, and they do tend to work with more aggressive type creatures. So, I've personally never seen a Gugway. I know they exist. I know Land Between Lakes has them, especially around the Tennessee River. There's been people that's seen them in that area. But yeah, I do think they work together now. I don't think they did at one time.
Yeah, because it's like they said, they see a dog man, when there's juveniles around, and it's like a magic trick. It's over here, but they want you to look over here so they can scamper. And I just figured I would ask you, and thank you for answering that question for me.
Sure, I appreciate the answer, the question.
Well, we plan on going back in. I know that the Pathfinders are going to put together a big expedition to go into an area. But I plan on going back in probably. I'm going to shoot for the end of July, if possible. I want to get in there as soon as I can, and I'm going to spend a couple weeks in there. I'm going to go in and camp and spend the whole time in a few different areas. I'm actually going to camp down in Jones Creek, and
Jones Creek's got some strange stuff down that way too. I've been all over that area. So where the bridge is closed off down there, I've been down there plenty of times. Matter of fact, that's the area that we've seen the crawler in. So
yeah, well, that Dogman, those Dogman photos that I showed you, those were taken from the other side of the bridge on the left-hand side of the creek.
Okay, I know where you're talking about. Going up that hillside. Yeah.
I mean, we got a lot of stuff out of there. We even got a dog man that was laying in a cemetery. This is the Henson Cemetery. You see that black spot right there? There he is laying in the weeds, just staring at us. We had been sitting there in front of that cemetery doing an interview with James. And
well, I can tell you, these creatures are all over there. They really are. And there are even a lot more of them in certain areas than there are other areas. Back when I started doing all this, all the Bigfoot were on the southern end, and all the Dogmen seemed to be on the northern end. So we researched the northern end more than we did the southern end. But I don't believe that anymore. I think they're scattered in both areas. And there's been a lot more Dogman sightings in the southern end than in the northern end lately. So, you have to be really careful in the LBL. And, our favorite time of research has always been the end of October through the 1st of May. And the reason why, you don't have as much foliage on the trees. You can see better what you're going into. You don't have the ticks as bad. And, of course, we all know LBL has terrible with ticks and that type of stuff. Plus, you can't see. July is a tough time for me to do any research there because you just can't see what you want to see, and it's so much foliage, and then you have the insects and the heat to deal with. But the LBL is one of those places that has gotten real popular the last couple of years with a lot of people publicizing what they've seen there, what they've heard there, and that type of thing. It's the strangest place that I've ever been. I've been to some strange places in my lifetime. And when the lights go out in the LBL, if you don't know where you're at in the area you're in, you better be familiar with where you're at and don't ever be by yourself. So I used to do things by myself. I don't anymore. I go with my team or I don't go at all. And, it's really not it's really just not a safe area to go in by yourself, and especially the northern end.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to open up chat
to the Jones Creek thing, and then since we're coming up on time, I want to talk to Darrell about what happened at Creek with the culverts with me. This was all the same day. If I get really shaky voice with very
yeah, that's okay. I understand that.
Yeah. So on November 9th, it was Andy and myself. We had started down in Colson because I had there the week before, and we went to Jones. And I always like going to Jones Creek. There's so much activity there. But that day, activity was to a whole new level. I mean, we walked deep in there, didn't see anything, didn't hear anything. And then as we're walking out onto the road, here sounds like a 10 to a 13-year-old girl screaming. And it started, and right before the first scream, there was a knock that Andy had heard. And then a few moments later, there's a scream. Same direction off, like in front of us, off to the right. So we were like, what in the hell is that? So we continued walking up the road a little bit because Andy showed us this area that him and his wife had found, this little camping spot. And we were making plans on about coming down there and camping. And we hear another scream to the left side of us up on the ridge. So we just sat there. We just stopped. I'm like, let's just stop and just look around, listen, observe, see if we see anything. We didn't see anything. And then about 15 minutes later, we hear another scream that's coming from behind us where our vehicles are parked. Because we come past the Downs 2 cemetery and parked on that side of the bridge. And we were like, what the hell is that? So we were just going, okay, we'll discuss that on our way back out. Let's continue walking. And then it was like a rattle. And I heard this predator rattle twice. And I had a hearing device in that just heightened the sound. I heard this twice. Never heard that before. Don't even know what that could be. I'm looking into it, but I've never heard that before. And I've never heard screams in Jones Creek, but I've heard about screams in different areas.
Wow.
So, walking back out, we find, and this was fresh. I mean, this print probably happened, what do you say, Andy, but like the night before? It was that fresh. And it was about 19, almost 20 inches long. And you could see that it pressed down the leaves. It was a clear print. So I measured it, took some photos of it, and we got to talking, and Andy's like, you know, I've been reading I read Martin's book, and he was talking about this dirt road with this creek area that he thought was a portal and they all got sick from. He's like, but I think I know where the road is, but I'm not sure. Well, I didn't want to come right out and say, hey, I know where this road is. So I was like, well, you take me to this road and I'll stop you. And if it's the right area, we'll stop. So he takes us up the road and I get on the walkie and I'm like, stop, this is it. So we get out of the Jeep and I look at my husband, Doug, and I said, something's off. Something don't feel right. And I push that to the back of my head. All right, let me walk Andy up in here. That's not the print that I'm talking about. No, you don't have this print yet. It's still in the Google thing. I walk up closer to those culverts because there's 2 culverts in there. And something smacks me in the side of the face. Now, a few months prior, Harry, I had something blow in my ear and it scratched the inside of my ear. This hit me harder. And I jumped and I said, whoa. I said, it happened to me. I kept repeating, it happened to me again. And Andy's probably looking at me like, what the hell is she talking about? But Doug knew.
Wow.
Doug knew when I said it happened to me again, he knew what I was talking about. So I took a deep breath and I was like, this is not going to scare me. I'm going to continue on. So we're looking down into that creek area, and we're talking, and I look at Andy, and I'll be walking inside the area, just that on the culvert around it, almost like something has made a door, like covering that entrance to that. And on the other side of the road, blocked off, so you can't get out the other end. But on the and up above the right culvert, there's like about a 4-foot gap where there's no vegetation at all. I'm like, well, let me walk down closer to these culverts and see if I can get a picture of inside the one that's off. I had a bad feeling. I did, and that should have been my red flag. And I stepped down into the creek. I take a step forward, and I turn around and start screaming, "Go! Get out of here!" My husband was 6'2", and I damn near put him on the ground. That's how quick. And I was getting up out of, taking my hands to clear them out. They were just hitting me in the face. Go! Get the fuck out of here! Pardon my language. This is the truth. I ain't never ran that fast in my life. And the odor that hit me, the most god-awful odor I've ever smelled. And I've in the LBL, I've smelling like tomato juice from having a bone marrow transplant. I smelled like tomato juice for weeks, and it made me sick. No, this was a sulfur, battery acid, rotten egg smell. It was bad. And I get on the road, and I just start like hyperventilating, and my chest was tight, and I was trying to squat down to kind of, and I couldn't do it. And I looked at my husband, and I looked at Andy. I was embarrassed. I said, "Please don't follow me. Please don't follow me." To my Jeep, and as I'm running to my Jeep, I'm throwing everywhere. And they want to check on me. And I remember he said, "No, I'm not okay. There's something here. There's something here. It's something bad. We've got to go now." And I didn't see anything, but the feeling. And I will stand on this to the day that I die. There was something in that hole. And my husband, and he's right here, he told me, he said that when he looked at me after I was kind of gathering myself, my eyes weren't the same color. And he told me the next morning, because the next morning when I woke up, I couldn't move my left shoulder. I couldn't lift it. I couldn't do anything with it. I was in tears. It felt like I had been in a very bad car accident, and all that adrenaline had wore off. And I still have a knot in my shoulder blade. And I don't know what it was that hit me there, but I can say there was something in that culvert, 100%. And I won't go back down there. Not unless I have a full team with me. I will not go back down there.
Yeah.
And
Probably don't need to.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I say you probably don't need to. That's a dangerous area right in there.
Yeah. And I told my dad after it happened, I said, I don't want to tell this story because you have a lot of new investigators that are just starting out and that don't need to be going into an area like this at all. There's a reason why Martin likes to keep areas like this a secret, because they're dangerous. And I told him that I would never share the location of it. You know, I know where it's at. You know where it's at. Andy knows where it's at. And my dad does. But I will never say the location of that area.
You know, the
And how
LBL's got the LBL. I've probably got 6 or 7 places like that in the LBL that I consider really dangerous area, especially at nighttime. So,
yeah.
and there's some other areas too that I've heard of that I haven't been into, but that whole area is when the lights go out in the LBL, everything changes. So, you know, it's bad enough in the daytime, but when the lights go out, I promise you, everything changes in the LBL. I've actually seen the moon. There was, let's see, how many? There was Elijah Henderson, Gabby Henderson, Matt Deal, Martin. There was about 12 of us, and there was 4 teams going out in vehicles to our area. And this was in May of 2022. And we're all sitting around the fire. We're camping in the LBL. A couple of us had a cabin, a couple of us had tents. It's just a mixture. We're all in the same area. And I actually seen, hard to believe, and we all witnessed it, not just me. We witnessed the moon, a clear full moon, turn from white into an almost red color in an hour, almost like blood color. And it went on for roughly an hour and a half. And, you know, Matt and them seen snakes crossing the road, hundreds of snakes just going across the road. And they seen deer by the herds running across, like something was after them. And shortly after that, they seen a Dogman cross the road on all 4s. And then the girls that went out in their vehicle in the certain spot we'd go to, they seen what looked like a mothman land right in front of their car in the middle of the road. They had to stop. Huge eyes, it watched them, and then it flew away. And
Mothman.
I mean, I'm talking about some strange things here, but these all happened, and it's incredible 12 or 14 people that witnessed it happen. So, you know, I don't know what it is about that area, that place, but there's some areas in there that I know of that I don't even go in because I know what's in there.
Yeah. Yeah, like I've told everybody, I didn't physically see this thing, but it felt like I was face to face with this thing. Like it felt like I was on me, and this lingered with me for hours. For hours. I was speechless in the car.
Very well could have been interdimensional. I'm just standing right next to you.
You know, I've been stuff about that here lately, and I think that's what it could have been. It didn't have to hit me like that, man. Like that actually hurt. It really did hurt. And
Trish, there's a video on YouTube right now where the man kept saying that he kept smelling something that was walking around his Jeep. And he put a camera up there. It's invisible, but you can see the little spiky outline of a Bigfoot. And you can see right straight through it. And he said when he smelled that smell, he would play the footage back, and it looked like a Bigfoot was looking inside that vehicle, walking all around it. He could hear it step very lightly, but he couldn't see it. On the camera, you could see it. So that might have been what hit you.
Yeah.
maybe. Well, like I said, it felt like its face was right here. It was breathing on me. I mean, the smell, it was warm. Like it took a breath on me. Like it was right there. And I've been in the LBL a lot. I was in the LBL months prior to that and never got freaked out by anything until that day.
You know, it's funny because
we did the squatch out, and I was trying to convince myself not to go. But that's what these things want. They want you to be scared of it. They want that fear.
Well,
They
you can count on one thing: all these creatures feed on your fear. I can assure you that. Now, I can
yeah.
promise you they feed on your fear, and every one of them know who Jesus Christ is. You can mention the name, and you can tell a difference. As a matter of fact, the dog man will run when you start speaking of scripture.
I've
I've
heard
seen,
that.
I've witnessed it. So we were surrounded by dogmen in close to Colson's Hollow back in 2022. Martin Groves, Martin had already been zapped that night. He was sick. He was in his Suburban. He had went to the bathhouse a couple times because he felt like he's going to throw up, and we had been sitting there, me and him and Barton only, with a fire in the middle of the woods with his Suburban backed up close as we could get to it, and we were surrounded by dogmen. I seen Martin Groves get up in the middle of just jump out and walk right into the woods and start speaking of a verse from a Bible, and they left. True
Yeah.
Do
story.
you
It
you
happened.
think what happened with me is similar to what happened to you guys that day? Because I had never watched your interview on Small Town Monsters until a couple of days ago when it was sent to me by my dad. He's like, "Hey, you need to watch this," and I did. And when I watched it, I was like, "Wow!" Like some of this is similar to what happened to me.
Yeah, it sounds like you pretty much experienced similar to what we did. Maybe not the zapping part, but the rest of it. So, you know, I think the thing that I don't think that I was ever terrified during that moment that was going on. I think I was more concerned than I was anything because I was worried about the condition of Martin. But I was still concerned about the creature jumping in on top of us or trying to attack us, but it didn't do that. But the area that you were in, who knows? That creature may live in that right in there. It may live there all the time. I don't know the answer to that, but it was still, it will always be the strangest thing I've ever seen, because I've seen a lot of things and most of them have appeared to be flesh and blood. I'm not sure if that was flesh and blood or a combination of both. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yes, Randy.
One quick question, because I know he's getting tired over here. When you
I'm just
say,
worried about my phone going dead on me. Is what I've been worried
oh,
about.
okay, real quick, I've heard the same thing you said about when you start talking about God, they disappear, and it goes for Bigfoot too. Do you believe that they're? Do you think they're demonic?
I'm not sure. I know the Bigfoot that I had on the Cumberland River that I was with, and I befriended and became very close to them in '99 through close to 2004, and I was there nearly every day with those creatures, visiting them. I would mention that to them, and they weren't demonic. They were what I call real forest people. They had a respect for Christ or God. Um, the dog man, like we're talking about, I'm not sure that them or some of the Bigfoot couldn't be demonic, because there's no doubt that when Martin Groves started chanting a scripture, I'm talking about, we could hear these things howling. They were surrounding us. We were nervous enough that Martin had his sword out. We were ready to be attacked, and Martin was really sick in his vehicle. We had gotten zapped cooking dinner that evening before this happened. He did, we didn't. And, you know, um, they knew. And, Martin was upset. He thought he thought we were getting attacked. And, weirdest thing about it, my phone never works in the LBL. I can't get a signal. But all of a sudden, my friend Beth Collinsworth calls my phone and says, "Y'all need to get out of there." How did you call me? I have no signal on my phone. She goes, you need to get out of there. You've got dogmen surrounding you. You've got a feral man also with them.
Oh,
And Beth is very intuitive and very just has a way of knowing stuff. And she had no idea we were in the LBL. She's a very close friend of mine, but she just out of nowhere, my phone rings and it's her. She goes, y'all need to get out of there. You're surrounded by dogmen. And that was just about at the time Martin gets up, walks right into the woods. I'm trying to stop him. Don't go in the woods by yourself. We can hear these creatures howling. We can hear them crossing the water in the shallows. Like a foot of water. Here's something running through the water. Sound like they were coming from that area, part of them. And Martin just goes in the woods and starts chanting. It was unbelievable. And I'm talking about it got so quiet, you could hear a pin drop, and we didn't see a creature or hear of another creature the rest of the night.
wow. See?
Yeah, I remember hearing that story. Well, it's been 2 hours, guys, and this man's got to charge his phone, and he's got to get to bed. He's a busy
I
fella.
apologize for that. I didn't have my charger with me. I didn't. But
No, it's fine. But hey, you haven't seen your little buddy here for a while, so I got a video I want to play you. Then
All
I'll
right.
take his bike out. I'll play our outro video. If you don't care if your phone stays charged, stay in the green room, and we'll see you then thereafter then, okay?
All right, buddy. Thank y'all. Thanks, everyone, for being on here with me.
Nice meeting you.
Oh, yeah. Have you ever done like when you look like have you ever done a basket to see like Santa Claus? Yeah. I knew it. Yeah, I did that. Perfect. Yeah, I did. Oh my gosh.
Dad Martin is showing off his song you wrote for him.
Me watching the expression on his face made it completely worth this.
And it's just a great thing to see that. It really is. He's such a close friend to me. He has been for so long, and he feels the same about me. It's been hard on me living so far away from him because we were always in the woods together, and I appreciate y'all being there for him. So
I love him. He's my new dad. He's a doctor.
I always he spoke highly of you too and all of you, but I try to. When I'm home, I try to stay a couple days with him, and I'll be doing that next week. So
He's into it. You see him, he's rocking. He's into it.
Oh yeah, it was a great song. Yeah, he's into it.
All right, well, I'm gonna pull everybody out and
yeah, thank you very much. Thank.
Appreciate everyone coming out tonight, and we'll see you next week, next Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Appreciate you.
On strings, thunder rumbles, monsters awaken when the silence breaks. Shadow whispers in the darkest lakes, LBL's calling from the forest deep. We don't run, we lose no sleep. Footprints vanish in the midnight fog, something moves beyond the cypress log. Infrared lock, camera set, heartbeats echo, we're not done yet. It's more than myth, it's breathing proof. Claws on bark and shattered roof, growls beneath the forest floor. We're not alone anymore. Monsters unleashed, we chase the unknown into the dark where secrets have grown. LBO monsters trails lead us through the night. Dancing shadows, a primal fight. Footsteps echo with forgotten pain. As the forest calls, we break the chain. Eyes like lanterns glowing and fierce. Myths become real and legends pierce. With every heartbeat the tension grows. In the heart of darkness the monsters show. Monsters unleashed, we chase the unknown into the dark where secrets have grown. LBL monsters, show your face. We hunt the truth, we don't give chase. The night is alive, the whispers ignite. We'll face the creatures that haunt the night. Together we stand, no fear to embrace. With courage ablaze, we'll hold our place. Monster of LPL, we're ready for war. In the silence, we find what we're looking for. Monsters unleashed, we're